We are joined on this episode by, I'll say it, an acting legend. You've seen this gentleman in a number of films, including the original Rocky, The Great Santini, Harlem Nights, and The Monster Squad, not to mention some memorable TV stints on shows like Murder, She Wrote, Wise Guy, Roots, The Next Generations. And you can currently see him stealing the show in Paper Street Pictures' horror western feature, The Pale Door, available now on VOD and soon to be Blu-ray. He is Mr. Stan Shaw. Stan, thank you so much for joining us on the program, sir.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's good to be here.
We're so grateful to have you here, even during a Lakers game.
I know.
We feel very lucky, though. But how we usually start this off is by asking our guests how they broke into their respective fields. So with you, did acting come naturally, or did you sort of fall into it from another profession? So how did you get your start in the business?
Acting came looking for me. I never pursued it. So it came after me. I was singing in my dad's club in Chicago, actually. And some people came up to me from the cast of Hair. And then I started doing a thing called Theater in the Streets, where a big traveling stage truck would go to different neighborhoods in their shopping centers, like their Ralph's or whatever, and open the truck up and let out chairs and put on different shows. And the people followed me around from the cast of Hair and said they wanted to, would I like to star in the cast of Hair, a Chicago company? And I said no, because my friends and I had already walked downtown by the Shubert Theater and saw that Hair was opening October 11th. And we joked that we were going to go see it because there were naked women in the show. So they were asking me to do it. And they had the Chicago Sun-Times with them. And I said, no, I didn't want to do it. And they asked if they could fly me to New York to see the Broadway production. And I was 17. And I said, okay, let me check with my folk. And I flew to New York and saw the production. And I flew back to Chicago, and they were having auditions in the Patricia Stevens building. And it was a line around the block, like twice, with thousands of people in line. And I walked up, I had an appointment. I walked up to the door, and there was a page standing there. She had a red jacket on, working for the building. And I told her my name, and she said, come with me. And we went up the stairs, and the elevator, I forget what floor it was on, passed by all the people standing in line with their numbers and microphones calling the different numbers. She opened a door, and the people who were auditioning, everyone, were behind a table with an empty chair, and they invited me to sit down and watch the people audition and ask my opinion on who I thought was good and who I thought was bad. And I gave it to them, and they asked me what I thought of the show, and I said it was a good show. Did I want to do it? I said, yeah. And the next morning, I was on the front page of Chicago Sun-Times, the first person cast in the Chicago Company of Hair.
Wow.
And that's how it began. And Joe Montagna was in the show as well. He's in Criminal Minds. That's my boy. I work with a lot of folk in that show. I work with Meatloaf and Diane Keaton. So those were my beginnings.
You know, most actors, that is not how their first audition goes. They don't get escorted up. So you must have been, it must have saw some talent immediately with your music.
Yeah, I didn't audition, actually. They saw me sing is what happened. And I thought it was quite funny that they wanted me to get in the show. Like, oh, hell no. I'm not showing these nuts on stage. You got to be crazy.
Were you that good, or was this some kind of favor to your dad, or was this like
no? They liked what they saw.
That's great.
Like what they saw.
So, growing up in Chicago in a musical family, your father, your brother, you're even a cousin of, I don't know if Becky knows this, but not one, but two late soul legends, Tyrone Davis and Sam Cooke, which I think is amazing.
Yeah.
Kind of all musicians and crooners.
They all thought I would go that route and be a recording artist. And my son is now recording. He's an actor as well. But
once that happened with the experience with Hair and Broadway, did that give you the bug right then? Did you know right then that was the new path?
No, I was just enjoying it, making money, having fun and singing it. And it went from one thing, led to I starred in 3 shows on Broadway. And after my last show, it was called Via Galactica, directed by an amazing guy who was director of the London Shakespeare Company, Sir Peter Hall. And after my last show closed, I decided to go to LA. And they wanted to, I was originally out here to replace George Stanford Brown and the Rookies because he was having a contract dispute. And he found out I was here, and he settled his dispute. So I just stayed out here, man, and started meeting with people. Actually, kind of starved for a year because they wouldn't cast me for anything for about a year. And I got my first film from Roger Corman at New World Pictures, which was a martial arts film. And it was like I don't know, that day I was turned down. I auditioned about 4 times that day and was turned down the first 3 auditions. And the last audition was New World Pictures on Sunset. They were in this glass elevator on the top floor on the roof, and went upstairs to see them. And they asked me for film. Back then, you had to have film on you before you can audition. And I remember being very upset and said, no, I don't have any film. How the hell am I going to get film if you guys won't let me get in the film? And I showed them my reviews from Broadway, and I said, I'm tired of this. And I cursed. And I said, it was a martial arts film that I can fight. I did part of a kata, and I turned to walk out. And he said, okay, can you be ready to go to Hong Kong in 3 days for 11 weeks? And I said, yeah, but I'm going to need somebody to pick me up and take me to the airport, and I need to get some things. And they took care of me. And 3 days later, I was on my way to Hong Kong and then the Philippines to work with the Philippine director, Cirio Santiago. So I was there for 3 months. That was my first gig.
Quite a first experience.
Yeah.
So with a background in martial arts training, it kind of makes sense now that you played a number of fighters in a number of films. Rocky, of course, but Tough Enough, Harlem Nights, Snake Eyes even. Is that something that happened by chance because of your experience? Did you audition for roles like it, or are you just a kind of imposing big frame son of a gun who fits the part?
They were just roles that came up. I remember for Rocky, I went up to audition for Carl Weathers' part of Apollo Creed. I had just met Sly, and he said, we just cast him, but I want you to play Dipper. And gave me the script, asked me to go in the other room and look at the part. I walked back in and said, okay. He said, come on, man, do this role. And blah, blah, blah. It was a huge role that was actually cut out of the film. And I actually have the footage of it. John Appleton cut it out because Rocky had to actually trick me and hit me below the belt in order to win the fight. And they said it didn't make him look like a hero. So he cut out, he left one line in the film, and I was really pissed. I was like, take all of it out, because I had another film that was out. And I said, take all of it out. Just don't leave one line in. He said, no, we're just going to leave the line. I was pissed, and I went in and I told Sly. He cut the scene out. Sly was furious. He and John had this, argument. Yeah, you took out my words, man. You can't take out my words. I wrote this is my words, my life. And you took out my words, you asked me. And they argued and yelled. And the next day, John Appleton came on set. And he said, I'd like to apologize for taking out your scene, but we had to do it. It doesn't make Sly look like a hero the way he beat you. And he hit me below the balls, basically. And he said, I'd like to present you with the footage. And he gave me the scene and the sound in the can. I still have it. I'm the only one who has footage that's never been seen in Rocky because everything else, all the outtakes were burned. So I still have those scenes.
That's probably worth some money.
Yeah, and Sly's busy making a director's cut of Rocky IV right now. He should get your footage to redo or put some special features on part 1.
Yeah, I actually had a chance to auction it off at Sotheby's for a $2 million starting bid. And I got close and I backed out of it. I just keep my film. And they actually had some fans who, and I didn't know anything about auctioning films and all that, who would start the bid off at that price. And they had begun the whole thing, and I backed out. So I still have my footage. And then I was doing Daylight in Rome with Sly. And he told me at that time they had finished a silver disc of Rocky. And he was mentioning that he wish he had the footage, but he's the one who told me all the footage was burned, the outtakes. And I said, well, I still have my scene. And he said, you have that scene? I said, yeah, I've got it at home in my safe. And he said, I forgot about that. Yeah. I said, well, we can talk about this, Sly. I'm not that hard to get along with. We just made a joke of it. But they had already completed the silver disc. But yeah, I still have that footage. Nobody's seen it but me.
Tell Sly the bidding starts at $2 million.
Yeah, he can afford it. Are you kidding?
I know.
That's like 50 cents to Sly.
Yeah. By the way, your impersonation is pretty spot on.
You like my Sly? Yeah,
I just wish I could see you in person doing it.
Because I have to try to look like him when I talk. It's crazy. It was my scene. What I'm saying? It's pretty good. But, scene was a killer, man. Damn, you really got into that. He did an Oprah show doing a promotion for Daylight. And she asked about me. She said, she stopped him in mid-conversation. I want to talk about Stan Shaw in that scene. And I went, Oprah knows me. This is great. This is great. So, and I didn't see it. Everybody was calling me, telling me about it. So I called Sly and I said, I heard you were on the show. And the next morning, the tape of the show was at my doorstep. He'd sent it to me. And I thought that was pretty cool. And he said some great things about me. I love Sly. He's amazing. I know him well enough to speak with him without his hands up, without his guard up. And I appreciate that. But he's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm certainly in my household a big Sly Stallone fan, and did want to talk a bit more about, kind of how you've developed your acting career over the years. In early days, it kind of sounded like you almost stumbled into it through your talents in music, and then, kind of leveraging some of your skills in martial arts. But I must say you're also an incredible dramatic actor. It's not just your singing or your physicality. I recently watched Daylight again. I was showing it to my daughter because it was something I remembered watching a while back, and then I thought my daughter would enjoy it. It's, kind of this intense action film. And, some of your scenes in that film are just heartbreaking, and your performance really, really drives it home. So I wanted to talk a bit about how you sort of developed your own approach to acting. Maybe developed organically over time. Do you have a particular methodology that works for you? Like, how would you describe your approach?
I'm just able to breathe life into characters. James Earl Jones is a great friend of mine. In my early days in New York, when I was a teenager, we hung out and talked when he was with Shakespeare in the Park, Joe Papp. And I've just, from living and learning and understanding, it's just an innate talent that I had, and to be able to relate to what someone has created on paper. And it was a talent I had to actually feel the pores of a character. Not everyone can do that. I tried the acting class, and I felt it was a waste of my time because most people who were teaching acting at that time were acting teachers who had failed at acting. And I felt they were teaching me their mistakes, because I would disagree with how the people who were trying to teach me were telling me how they felt about the character they were trying to teach me to portray. So I felt differently than they felt about how they would pursue showing this person's soul or unveiling the character's fingerprint. And I felt, my opinion of what I would play was more valuable because it's something that I had to do. So I couldn't do their vision of it. And it just made me feel like this person was teaching me things that didn't work for them. So I said, if I'm going to air, I'm going to do it on my own dime, basically. And I've done pretty well in that regard, and my experience at developing different characters. So my approach was, and still is, I read an extensive piece of literature or a screenplay or a novel over and over again until I'm living this character. Now I get more out of talking to the person who's created the character and what they thought of when they were creating the character in its infancy, as well as through its development, through the end period where they finally put the exclamation point in the period and the dot and close the book. So I get more out of that person's thought process of where they wanted that character to go when they created it and while they were writing it and when they concluded in it. And I take that and I marinate it with my opinion and how I see that character unfolding. And that's basically how I present my work. It's different.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's really great to hear that process. And I think that transitions really nicely to, one of the big things we're here today to talk about, which is the Pale Door. And there's certainly a meaty character with a lot of emotional resonance that you play in that film. I'm curious what drew you to the project initially. I imagine you've seen so many scripts over the years, and it really takes something special now probably for something to stand out. So what made you interested to tackle the character in the Pale Door?
Well, I love the genre. Horror and Westerns are my favorite genre, and to have both of them mixed together was very fascinating to me. I was actually on location doing another picture when I was offered the Pale Door. I was starring in a picture with Ashanti called A Christmas Winter Song, and I got the script, the material from my manager. First, she called and I asked what it was about, and she said it's a Western, and I went, oh, okay, because I just written a Western. I have a screenplay that I've written. And I said, it's great. And she said, it's a horror film. And I said, wait, is it a horror film or is it a Western? She said, it's both. And I went, you gotta be kidding me. And she said, no, it's very well written. And I got the material and I read it. And I like the essence of who Lester was and his protective nature and how he felt and resonated as far as dealing with the boys, Zach and Devin, the two characters, and becoming this protector of who they are I love that. And I love the whole onslaught of the witches and the women and the magic that Aaron and Camp created. I thought it was genius, and I really love their writing and their collaborative skills. And when I look for something to portray, I always try to find something that people have never seen before, something that's never been shown before, because I feel that medium, the whole thing of motion pictures and the big screen, I feel when you pay money to go in to see something, you should check your coat, your hat at the door and sit down and say, show me. And I like showing audiences things they've never seen before. And I thought that was an opportunity to be a part of that and show the different things that's never been seen before in film. And Aaron's technique and where he was going from his mind's concept to the paper and to the film was brilliant to me. Just the way he goes about presenting an idea. It's one thing to put something on paper. It's one thing to get behind the camera, but it takes a great quiltsman to make a tapestry that everyone can relate to, or that they can feel actually the material of that film when they're watching it. And I thought it was something that I wanted to be a part of, that I could help blend those genres together with the characters. And I saw an incredible opportunity for vulnerability, which I look for in my characters. I look for vulnerability, I look for toughness, I look for understanding, because their characters have different layers to them. At least that's what I present when I take on a character. I never do anything that's all black or all white or all ABC. I look for the total alphabet of a character's emotion, or showing different layers of who he is. That always intrigues me. I'd never want to play a guy who's just a straight murderer, crazy, just go up. I want to show the process of what makes a person tick, what makes him who he is, and show his ups and downs and his side to sides, ins and outs. That's fascinating to me. Just what an actor does or should do. And that's part of my learning for James Earl Jones as well. And I've had the honor of working with him twice. So that only proved to make me see everything 2020 in my thinking of putting a character on screen, to watch him work closely, watch how he attacks a character. He and my other favorite guy is Anthony Hopkins. So he and Tony, the way they unravel the character has always appealed to me. So I try to put on those shoes and walk in them.
And those are two good pairs of shoes to follow in the footsteps of, for sure.
Yeah, Tony and I used to have the same agent for years before Tony left. My agent got him actually Silence of the Lambs. And I remember I went on location and I came back and I said, how's Tony doing? He said, he's gone. I went, he's what? He's gone. I said, but he took you with him to the Oscars. He said, yeah. I didn't mean to laugh, but I said, what happened? He said, he just called me and said, it's over. Howard, it's over. And that was it. I said, wow. And I said, well, don't worry, I won't leave you. And I was with the agent for over 20 years and he passed away. But perhaps I stayed too long. I don't know. I was just fault. Because
your word, loyalty. That's a good thing.
Yeah. And it Liam Neeson was with him as well. And he got him Darkman. And then the other big agents called and he left. Well, the big agents called me as well when I did The Great Santini with Duvall, and I wouldn't go. I'm staying here. I was with a medium agency, and I like working with people who like working for me and with me. And I didn't want to be a part of, this whole machine. And they dump people and move to the next. And my people were great. So if you're great with me, I'm great with you. It's just how I've always been.
Yeah, that's definitely, something to that with filmmaking in particular. You got to find your family almost, right? Your film family of people that you trust and like collaborating with. And that's so much more valuable, than getting maybe a slightly bigger paycheck on a big project. Those people that kind of stick with you and that you actually enjoy collaborating with through life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, money comes and money goes. That's why money flows.
Yeah.
So it's whom you feel comfortable with. It's like you say, the whole family thing. It's a marriage. It either works or it doesn't, but you've got to participate in it. And you got to be on the same page, and you have to work with someone well enough to scream and yell at them. And like I would scream and yell at Howard. He was my great agent, and call him at 2 or 3 in the morning and wake him up and say, well, thank you for letting me yell at you. He would just laugh and say, I'm going back to sleep. But, after I had time to think about stuff, but it was just a great relationship. It was a real relationship. It wasn't all yes and no and do that, because if I felt something was wrong, I had to express myself. And the same, with how he worked. And I never took it personally or delivered it personally. It always involved the work. And I respected him as a human being, as a person. And I always had the final say because it was my shot in what I do. So if I didn't want to do something, don't try to talk me into it, because I know what I can bring to something. And if I can't have that platform to where I feel comfortable working and making what I do a part of the whole, I always like to make the picture the star, and I become part of the frame. And I think once that happens and you get a cast that works like that, you've got something that's magical. And I've never been into the ego of acting. I think that hurts people, and you don't have to do that. That has nothing to do with the process of what I put on film. And it shouldn't have anything to do with the process of what anyone puts on film, because it's an ensemble. And not one person can make anything go from A to Z, not on a feature film. I remember I did, I think in the 70s, I starred in a miniseries. It was Arthur Haley's The Money Changers with Kirk Douglas. And that dude, man, he would take people's lines and say them before you say your lines. And it was your line supposed to be saying. He worked with a guy named Percy Rodriguez, who was this great actor that you've seen in a lot of old Mission Impossibles and all those shows back in those days. And great character actor. And he had these scenes, myself, Kurt, and Baxter, and Percy Lincoln Kilpatrick. We were in this in Bank One downtown shooting nights. And I had heard about Kurt taking people's lines. So Percy was standing next to me. I'm facing Ann Baxter, who's standing next to Kirk Douglas. And I say my line, and Ann Baxter says her lines. And it's Percy's time to say his lines to Kirk. And he kind of opens his mouth, and Kirk takes all of his lines and he says them to him. And Boris Segal was the director, Katie Segal's father. And they said, okay, cut, Brent, let's move on. And I looked at Percy. And I said, well, those were your lines, right? And he just had his head down and he said, that's okay. I said, no. I was real young back then. I said, no, that's not right. And I said, wait. And Boris Segal turned around and said, what's wrong? And I said, all those lines Kurt just said, those were Percy's lines. He just took his lines. And Kurt put his head down, and Boris said, wait, where's the script? Give me the script. And he looked at the script and he said, Jesus, what the hell? Set it back up. Kurt, what the hell are you doing? Come on, let's set the shot back up. Percy, you want to do your scene again. Get your line. And we did the scene all over again. And Percy quietly said, thank you. And I said, no, man, we're all in this to work. And I looked at Kurt and I said, if you want to, do your own film, we can all go home and just leave you here with the lights and let you say all the lines that you want to. And he just kind of put his head down. Now, 3 days later, I went to a screening of the film I did called The Bingo Long All-Stars and Motor King with James Earl Jones and Richard Pryor. And Michael Douglas was at the screening. It was on the Universal lot. And he walked up to me later and said, I really like the film and blah, blah, blah. I said, I'm working with your dad downtown in The Money Changers. He said, how's that going? I said, he's taking everybody's line. He said, Dad's been doing that for years. And so we had a nice little exchange. But, people work different ways. And sometimes they don't mean anything by it. It's just who they are and what they do. But I prefer to work a different way. And I like working with people so everybody can contribute. That's why everybody's in a film. That's why you got all those folks, the lighting, the crew. Everybody's a part of that, making that happen.
No, it's the ultimate team sport. People have said it's the same argument that like the guy sweeping the floors at NASA is still helping get people to the moon. Like I think with filmmaking, it doesn't matter what your position is. You're pretty critical to the production.
Yeah,
it's like any cog in the wheel falls off. The wheel also falls off.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons I particularly love some of the genre communities around the horror genre as an example of there's kind of just this tight-knit group of people, a lot of filmmakers and fans that are really just there because they love the horror genre, right? They love the movies. And I think that inspires a lot of kind of that sort of attitude that you talked about, Stan, with making sure it's for the movie, not for the ego. Obviously, you get egos in every genre and every facet of business. But there's something really nice about that sort of collective spirit. And it sounds like you're a fan of both the horror and the Western genres from what you talked about. And so it sounds like that might have been something that intrigued you about The Pale Door in particular.
It was. It's what brought me there. that whole tapestry. And when I got to the set and saw the Western town and all of that and the wardrobe and, all the magic that goes into making a film, it was awesome. It was awesome. There was no problem. It was an ego-free set, and everybody was in it to make a film that worked. And that's what we did. I remember we did the one scene with the kid, Devin, and he went first. And you got me, you got Bill Sage, you got Pat, and we're good at what we do. And the kid went and did his scene. And I looked at him and said, you want to do that over? You want to give it another shot? He said, no, I'm okay. And I wanted him to do another shot at it. And I said, you sure? He said, oh, no, I'm good. I said, all right, because we're up next. And I did my scene, and Pat did his scene, and Bill Sage did his scene. And I said, wait a minute, I want to do it again. And we said, kid, when guys who are hungry ask you if you want to eat, you got to ask for a piece of meat. We had a lot of fun on that set, man. A lot of fun. And the guys got along famously.
No, I got to say, speaking of Devin, we had him on the show not too long ago to talk about Pale Door as well. And I'm not kidding at all, and I've said this offline as well. The scene of this movie for me, it's when you were actually having that conversation with Devin in the third act, where you kind of lay out about his father. I think it works because he is a young man. He was surrounded by a crew of veterans like yourself and Bill Sage. And I think you brought the gravitas to Lester's character with that speech. I mean, that speech to me, you steal the scene, you steal the movie, in my personal opinion.
Oh, thanks. We had something special. I love working with him. He has a crispness about him. And there's a purity about him, which I really like, that he can portray, that he shows on film. And it's in his eyes, and it's in his mannerism. It's in his essence when he unleashes himself into that character. And I appreciated that. And I appreciated working with him. Like I said, we had some good guys. So it's easy to put in work when you're in a place where there are like-minded people, where it starts at the top with Aaron and his brilliance and his eye for seeing detail. So it was pretty terrific experience for me.
You talked a little bit about kind of collaborating with Devin and giving him a little piece of advice about using the analogy of eating. Do you have any other advice that you would give to young actors, maybe trying to start out and find their way?
Well, just to believe in yourself and to know that when someone doesn't cast you in something, it's not necessarily against you. It's against what they want to see. And sometimes it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. And don't believe people over your own appreciation of who you are and what you're capable of bringing to a party. For instance, when they cast the first Roots, I starred in Roots 2. I forget the name of this casting director. I had a confrontation with him at one point. I actually told him I would forget his name before he forgot mine, and I forgot his name. I swear to God, I'd forgotten his name, but they wouldn't see me. I'd never met him before. My agent called, you want to get standing there to read for blah, blah, blah. Nope, they wouldn't see me, period. And I said, fine, but I was upset because I said, let me get up to the plate and let me strike out. Let me go in there and read and then tell me no. But, to just say no blatantly. And anyway, after I did the second Roots and I got all these great reviews and blah, 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 ran into the guy and telling me how much he appreciated my performance. And he had forgotten the whole thing about not wanting to see me for the original. And blah, blah, came up to me like he was the biggest fan of my work in the world. And I allowed him to wear that jacket. I didn't throw mud in him or dirt in his face. I talked to him and appreciated what he had to say, and I went on with my life. But this is a funny town. And also, this town, when I started, if you show them you're blue, you're blue. You're not orange, you're not yellow, you're not rainbow. They say you're blue. So when I first came out here, I didn't sing. No one knew I sang. I just went straight for the dramatic and what I could do and what I knew I had inside of me. Because back then, if you came out here as a song and dance man, you wouldn't get a shot at working in a serious role. Ben Vereen tried that. He was in Hair with me. And it didn't work. He was known as a song and dance guy, and they wouldn't let it transfer into a real career. He did Chicken George, but they wouldn't let it transfer into other ventures. They see in this town what they want to see. And if you show them something great, that's who you are. You have to believe in yourself long enough to be, to know what you have inside you and to unleash it and to make people believe what you're capable of through your work. So you have to believe in your art, and you have to believe in your craft, and you have to believe in you and what you do. But you have to be open enough to talk to people who create the things that you do as well and follow that flow. So first, to thine own heart, be true. And don't doubt who you are. Know who you are. You can doubt a character or doubt a role, but don't doubt you. And if you're out here for a career and you're just waiting to work, don't starve. Go get a job. But I didn't do that years ago. I just hung in there, man, and just kept plowing away. And I had an agent that believed in me. So you have to get people that work with you and for you that believe in you. And they work for you. You pay them 10%. They don't pay you 90%. So you have to get that understanding of how you're going to guide your career. And if you don't know how to guide a career, you need to be fortunate enough to have someone who can teach you how to guide a career. And you have to know what you're doing. James Earl Jones once told me careers are chosen from what you choose to do. Careers are made of what you choose to do as well as what you choose to turn down. And you can't take everything for what it is on face value. So you just have to know who you are.
Similar to that advice to young actors, I know you've worked with some iconic directors. Do you have kind of similar advice for young directors that may be coming into it fresh-faced and not know everything they should do with an actor? Is it a combination of come with a clear vision, but also give the actor time to breathe?
Yeah, if you're going to direct film, I mean, it's like being the maestro of an orchestra. You want to hear the different instruments. You just can't direct a concert with only a flute or a cello. You have to have all the instruments to make the orchestra whistle and make it sing and make everybody appreciate every ounce of the music that's coming from your leadership. So if you're going to direct something, be personable with the people you're directing. Don't come into something being authoritarian because it won't work. And be flexible enough, like Bruce Lee says, be water, my friend. Be flexible enough to talk to an actor and trust their opinion as well of how they see things. And collaborate. It's wonderful to work with a director who's also created the product that you're doing, who's the writer. But if you're working from someone else's work, respect that actor you've chosen to bring that story to life, as well as you respect the person who put the pen to paper to create the work that you now are hired, to put on screen. So it's all a collaborative effort. So if you're going to direct something, learn to listen as well as to teach. Or have a complete vision. You have to have a complete thought. And to do all of that, listening is very important in filmmaking. You have to learn to appreciate the guy who can get you there or the lady who can get you there. And to treat everybody with respect and to treat them equally. To treat the guy who's on the set for 3 days in a scene as well as you treat the guy who's starring in your film. Because the bottom line is everybody's there to make one picture work.
One more thing we've brought up a few times on this show is we've talked a bit about the crazy natural events that occurred during the production of The Pale Door that you were there firsthand to see, like the floods, the tornadoes, the hail. Did any of that kind of compare to some of the challenges you've encountered in the past? Is it some of the wildest stuff you've experienced on a set?
That was crazy. When I was doing Tough Enough in Texas, I remember I have my cars on set, so I drove my car to a 7-Eleven. And I came out of the 7-Eleven and the sky was literally black, like black clouds rolling, heading toward the hotel. And I'd never seen that. And as I'm driving to the hotel, huge, you heard bam, 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 bam. Huge baseball and melon-sized ice started falling from the sky and smashing cars. So I'm driving ahead of that ice storm, trying really fast, trying to make it to the hotel. And I get in there. So was the first time I saw that. But in Guthrie, Oklahoma, there was a warning in the hotel. I've never had that happen, saying everybody need to leave their room and come downstairs. And I'm like, what? And I look out of the window and ice balls, the size of golf balls and baseball, are slamming into the double-sized window. And I'd never seen that before. And there was a rainbow as well. So the sky was dark and there was a rainbow. And there was a huge hailstorm. So we went downstairs, and just as we were out of the carport, or the circular carport, where you pull the car under the awning, just as you step out of that, a tornado was coming over the hotel, and I guess it was like 30 feet, maybe 40 feet above our heads. And everyone was running, and I was so fascinated at looking at it. And we all started taking pictures under this twister, and it landed about 3 blocks from us and just started tearing things up. And we have pictures of this. And I'd never seen anything like that. Or we'd be filming, and I have on my Instagram page, I have scenes. We'd stop filming, and I'd go out and start shooting the storm, and started talking to the storm, saying, "Let there be light." And a huge lightning storm would come up and make the pitch black like middle of the day. And I'd never seen that. And the crackling thunder I'd heard because I'm from Chicago, but the power of that storm I hadn't been a part of physically. So that was scary if it wasn't so fascinating, because I was curious as hell to see all of that up close and personal. I'd never been in anything or part of anything quite like that. And to witness it with everybody else, my guys, was pretty amazing. So that was a first, Oklahoma. I don't know if I could live there, but it was very interesting visiting it, being a part of it.
Right. Where the wind comes sweeping down the plains, literally.
Yeah,
twisters for everybody.
Sounds terrifying.
They all have a good story out of it, though. I feel like everybody from that shoot has a fun story now about how they saw the tornado with their own eyes.
Yeah, it's crazy. And we had all the boards up to walk over the water to get to our lunch. And you'd sit in a chair and sink, or you had to walk carefully over the board to get to your dressing quarters, or you'd fall. It was crazy.
It's a good lesson to respect nature, huh?
Oh, yeah. Nature is no joke.
Nope.
So Stan let me know at the top of the show that we were interfering with Lakers Game 3 as of this recording, and I felt terrible because I forgot he was a diehard Laker fan. So I feel a little less bad because he told me he's taping the game. So we're going to keep him for another few minutes here and kind of run through a quick questionnaire. I told him it's a bit like James Lipton's Inside the Actor Studio Proust questionnaire. Mm-hmm. So we'll run through a quick one with you here so you can go watch LeBron take it home.
Okay.
All right. First off, what movie do you think you've seen the most in your life?
Which one film have I seen the most?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. Of all the movies, well, it has to be the films that come on every year, like Ben-Hur or The Ten Commandments.
Nice.
Because I watched that every year since I was a kid. So that, now if you're talking modern film since then, something that I just like that I always watch.
Sure, yeah, whatever. However you want to answer.
Okay. I watch a lot of films a lot. My films, if I do a film like Pale d'Or, I'll watch Pale d'Or. I'll watch it at least 4 or 5 times, and I watch it for different things. The first time I'll watch it to see how I'm doing. The second time I'll watch it to see the combination of everyone. The third time I'll watch it to concentrate on the cinematography. Then the fourth time I'll watch it to see it through the director's eyes and everybody working together. And the fifth time I'll watch it for the score and the editing. So I've always had that eye on a film that I've been a part of. Working with De Palma, he works like that too. So we talked, and that was kind of cool to see where his head was at. That's another thing that's really nice when you get to work with greatness, to find out their vision and how they see what they do and how they unfold what they do. And sometimes it aligns with what you do and how you see yourself as being a part of a tapestry. And he and I spoke the same language. That was cool. And I remember Nick and I did the scene at the bar. And Brian's pretty quiet. And after the scene, he stood behind us and put his hand on my shoulder and on Nick's shoulder and just went, my boys. That was like, coming from him. That was really cool. But so I see a lot of films in different ways. I watched Gladiator a lot. I watched Rocky a lot because I like watching Sly from his beginnings and to watch him develop from just an actor to a superstar. I told Sly he was going to be a star. When we had the screening of Rocky at the studio, the first screening of Rocky, I left early and went in the bathroom, and Sly came in. The bathroom on the film was still playing. And you know the scene where he grabs Adrian in his apartment and he hugs her and he kisses her and they like slide down to the floor, and women were screaming in the audience for that scene. I remember saying, man, you're going to be huge. He said, you think so? I said, are you kidding me? Did you hear those women screaming when you grabbed it? He said, yeah, that was something else. I said, are you kidding? You are going to be so huge. You really think so? I said, oh, man, I love that guy.
That's an awesome segue into the next question.
Yeah.
What is your favorite acting performance of all time?
Of anyone?
Yep.
Woo-hoo. I've got a lot of those.
It's hard.
Yeah, I've got a lot. James Earl Jones in The Great White Hope, which he should have won the Oscar for, but they weren't giving Oscars to black guys back then. But I was furious when he didn't win that. He was amazing in that. If you see it, break down his performance, he was, that's one of my favorites. Tony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs. I loved the way he broke that character down. I liked Sir Laurence Olivier in Marathon Man and how he did that. And there's so many. Ladies, I love Gina Rollins in A Woman Under the Influence, Cecily Tyson in A Woman Called Moses. There's just so many.
Well, I'll have you narrow this next question. I'll have you narrow it down just the top couple. Who's the one or two actors out there, working actors, that you've not had a chance to work with yet that would be at the top of your list of like you'd really like to collaborate and work with them?
Brad Pitt. I loved him in California with a K. Mm-hmm. And I loved him in Legends of the Fall. He's one of my favorites. I like what he does on film. And if you watch his differences, even in that little part he had in True Romance, where he played the stone out guy, he's good. I want to work with Samuel L. Jackson, who's a friend of mine. And I like how he's thrived as an actor and what he puts into his work, what he did in Django, that character. I thought he should have been nominated for that role.
Tarantino somehow brings something out of Samuel L. Jackson. He does some amazing work in his films.
I know. I mean, some of his amazing work, too, was with Kavanaugh. That I don't know if you saw that little thing he put together, Kavanaugh, when they were trying to put him on the Supreme Court, when they cut some of his
Pulp Fiction questions to him.
Fiction. Yeah. And, I called him and told him, man, that was I always let people know what I think about them. And he knows I think the world of his work, and I would love to be in a film with him. I like horses that can run, man. I like horses who can run. I don't like plotters, and I don't like people or horses who trot. I want you to just tear ass and put the dirt up behind you and just run. And I love that. And I love a performer who doesn't care about the aesthetics of what he's doing, and he lets the character be seen instead of who he is as a person himself be seen. So I like someone who can cut loose, man, and make me forget that that's who that person is. That's true artistry and true work. When I can look at you performing and I see the character more than I see you. I've never had the luxury of playing me on camera. And some actors make a career out of that, same smile, same guy, same, Tom Cruise does that. He's the same guy, same smile, and then all this stuff. But I will say that I liked him in the samurai picture he did.
The Last Samurai?
Last Samurai. I thought he got out of himself more in that picture than anything I've seen him in. And I thought they should have given him a nomination for that. But usually he's the smile. I mean, he's got a great smile, but damn. That's good. But I feel if you're fortunate enough, to be those guys making 20 or 30 million a picture, which is great, 40, 50 million a picture, let that be your office and you make those films and then go produce movies that you want to do, go produce your own little picture where you can work and put work in, get some people around you that can run with you and get some people around you that are better than you and work. It's kind of like Quasimodo, who would go stand by a statue every day to try to stand a little taller. Go try to stand a little taller, man. You got all that money? Take 10 million and go make a little picture and hire some guys and give them a little money. And you hire somebody who can write something you would normally do and fucking kill. And when people see it, they go, damn, I didn't know he had that in him. And then go back and do your part 3 or part 4 or part 5 and make your $30 million. But always do those little films you can put in film festivals. Use your own money, man. Pay a writer. So give me something crazy. Let me see it and get somebody good to write it and say, okay, let's go make this fucker.
Segues perfectly to the next question.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, let's say you had all the resources you needed. Budget wasn't an issue. What would be your dream project to work on? Maybe a certain type of character or role or one of your own scripts?
My scripts, I've got 9 screenplays that I've written. I won Best Screenplay Award at the New York City International Horror Film Festival at Tribeca. It's called Gargoyle Bob. And I wrote the novel, and I wrote the script that won the award, and I have the sequel completed. So I would produce my own stuff. In my smaller pictures, the one I was telling you about that I've written for Devin and I to do, and I got a Western that I want to do with Bill Sage. I would go make my own stuff. I think if you've got that talent, I think a lot of guys and ladies miss out on that because they'll go win an Oscar and then they wait for fucking Hollywood to give them something. Or Halle Berry came out recently and said, I thought Hollywood would call me when I won the Oscar. They haven't called me. Stop waiting for people to call you. Go do your own shit. Write. Hire somebody to write you shit. Have you 10 screenplays that are killers waiting. You win that Oscar. You let me win something and watch the shit I come out with. I mean, I've got some stuff, man. I've got some stuff. And, I'm just holding on to what I've got. And as soon as I'm able to make those, you will see things you've never seen before because I'm capable of that. And everybody should strive to be their own band leader. It's a sad dog that won't wag his own tail. Wag that sucker, man. And have you some gems with people that you love working with. And don't be afraid to work with folk, or don't revere someone so much that you don't want to step out and swap lines with. And don't do ego. Ego kills. Oh, I don't want to work with her. She thinks she's that. Oh, I don't want to work with him. He's full of this. He's full of that. No, work with people. Work with people. A lot of times that's a facade that they carry on because they think that's who they have to be to maintain who they are or who they think they are. Always have your cachet of scripts. Lou Gossett, when he won for Oscar the Gentleman, he said, man, I thought after I won the award, I was going to be Wesley Snipes. These are his quotes. But, they didn't come to me for the thing. Don't expect them to come for you. Expect them not. Win the Oscar. Oscar is guaranteed that you'll get at least $5 million your next picture, at least. Now it may be 10. And you'll get one good offer. So you have that in your quiver. But put other arrows in your quiver, man. And start doing that before you win the Oscar. Believe. That's why I say you got to believe in you. And if you believe in you, part of that is being prepared. It's like Boy Scout, man. Know who you are. Start smelling your own shit and understand that when you get ready to go, you got the wheels to roll with it. Because being great is by design. It's not by mistake. You can't mistake yourself every time you go out and, oh, he's great. Oh, he's great. Yeah, it's by design. So design the rest of your career. Design the rest of your career. Let's see these little directors who are directing these little films, these young guns. I've got some young guns that I'm going to put to work. Got a kid, I wrote the dean of NYU and got him in NYU film school. And he won the Britt Ratner Award for Best Student Film, Best Director in that whole thing. And I'm waiting to work with him. I got scripts with him and see everything. Go look at everything, every genre of film, and appreciate the work that people do, whether it's comedy, drama, tragedy, thriller, horror, all of that. Go see all that stuff. But learn to appreciate the work that people put in to get to where they are or on their way to where they are. Walk with folk, man. Walk with young guys. Walk with young ladies who are out there in the industry trying to make a name for themselves. And as soon as you get the opportunity, go track people down. Say, hey, I saw you in this film, this small film about 3 years ago. I've written this and I now got, 1.3 million or 2.5 million. And I want to do this and I'll pay you as much as I can pay you, but I'll give you a piece of it. And let's try to make this thing work. But you got to be a part of it takes a village to raise a baby. It takes a village to make a movie. So that would be my suggestion.
A lot of inspiring stuff there for sure. Like it's good to see you never lost the hunger for it all. So it sounds like you got as much vigor for the process and for the art as you did, from the moment you were on that stage in Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a great industry. They have some screwed up people in it.
That's every industry.
You got to know who you are.
You may have answered this already because I know you're a fan of it, but what is your favorite film about the sport of boxing?
My favorite fight film?
Yeah, basically your favorite boxing movie. If it's not Rocky, I'd be surprised.
No, it's Rocky. It's Raging Bull. But Rocky, because I appreciate, the journey that Sly took for writing it, for sleeping outside of Chardoff Winkler's gates. And every day he drove out, he would stand there with a script and pass him. And for his stick-to-itiveness. And when he gave him the film, he finally read the script and they came to him and said, all right, well, we're going to do this film, but we're going to get James Caan to play Rocky. And he said, what are you talking about? It's my words, man. I'll give you a script. You just pay me for a script and I'll act for free. You know, I mean, that's believe in you, man. He's the genuine guy for that shit. Believe in your stuff, and look where it got him. Look where it got him. He created that film, and I'm very protective of Sly. He knows this. In interviews, I'd have his back. But Sly created a character study of a down-and-out guy, a complete character study of a loser who have no self-belief, doubted everything, the lowest of the low. And he went in and he made this guy, and he made all of us feel his vulnerability. He made all of us love his failures and love his attempts at triumphs. And he made us feel what he felt when he was creating this character. And as soon as Rocky won Best Picture, they came after Sly to be this superhero. And he built himself up, got the weights and got the muscles and the abs and all that to play these roles. And he was great at the Rambos and all this. They wanted him to take his shirt off and everything. And then they started complaining about Sly always playing these characters. But those were money gigs. Sly, who came on the set, what he created was an actor. He created a role that showed you the essence of a person from A to Z and a human being. And that's what brought him to the party. But Rocky would be that. And loved De Niro. And what he did with Raging Bull. Those would be my two favorites.
I'm a big Rocky fan as well. There's a reason that character is, so iconic and so synonymous now with American cinema. So It's the writing and the performance. So switching to the world of real life boxing, who in your opinion is the greatest boxer of all time?
Woo! well, I'd have to go with Ali, just because of the sweet science that he brought to the masses. I mean, there were great fighters as well. I mean, Ezra Charles was a great fighter. Jack Johnson was one of the greatest fighters ever because of the time and because of the people he beat. He didn't give a damn what you thought about him. You get your ass in the ring and I'm fucking you up. I don't care about your politics. And all the people who would call him the N-words and all this stuff outside the ring. Just come on in here with nothing but your shorts and your boots and call me those same names. And we'll see who's left standing. So he did it in a time when people wanted to kill him. And he didn't care. Once he got in the four squares, he beat your ass. He doesn't care about your opinion. He didn't care who you are. He didn't care if you were 7 feet tall or if you were a little person. You get in the four squares and it's his world. So I think he was. I'm a huge fan of Sugar Ray Leonard, and he was my champion. I helped train James Toney. I'm a huge fan of his. I have, his boxing trunks and robe when he beat Iran the Blade Barkley. And he beat a lot of people. He beat Evander Holyfield, and I was a big fan and friend of Holyfield's as well. But James Toney came up from middleweight to heavyweight and was hurting people with his science. But my era, I didn't miss any fights in Vegas. I was always at ringside, sitting actually closer than Stallone and Schwarzenegger because the commissioner was a fan of mine, which was really cool. He would always say, come on, sit right here with me. My wife loved that movie. So I sit right at the apron and look back at Schwarzenegger and Sly and go, you sitting back there? It's okay. It's okay. But I love, my era was Hagler, Duran, Sugar Ray Leonard.
Tommy Hitman Hearns.
Tommy Hearns. Yeah, Tommy was good one. I mean, I was at all his fights. I was at his fight when he fought Hagler. I was right in the corner of the ring when he fought Hagler. I was in the corner when he fought Pepino Cuevas. I was at all of his fights with Ray when Tommy was the slugger and Ray was the boxer. In the 12th, 13th, 14th round, Ray turned into the hunter and Tommy turned into the boxer when Ray beat him. So I was at all those fights. I was at those were my guys.
That was such a good era.
That was a great era. Now I don't care about boxing. I watch more MMA right now than I do boxing because all the great guys are gone. I appreciate Floyd Mayweather and what he did. And I love Mike. I was at a lot of Mike's fights when people were terrified of Tyson. I mean, grown men who knock out people for a living were actually afraid of him. And I never understood that. You make millions of dollars knocking people out and you're scared of him? Yeah, but he knocks out people. Well, but you're a fighter too. It's like if you get, 2 German Shepherds or a German Shepherd and a pit bull and they're fighting, there's not going to be fear. Both dogs are going to go for what they go for, but one's not going to be afraid of the other. I've always thought boxers should be like that, but Tyson changed that. It was kind of like Sonny Liston had that aura about him when he fought. And then Ali came in to fight Sonny Liston, and he didn't scare. I'm a bad man too. I don't scare. Man, everybody thought he was going to kill Ali. Ali, kill me? I'm going to kill him. People thought Ali was crazy, and he beat his ass. So there's something for confidence, and that's another part of know who you are. Know who you are. Don't go with the bullshit. Don't go with the okie doke. Know who you are. If you're in a competition with someone and you've got skills and they've got skill, put your skills together and try to do what you do. But don't be afraid. Man, you've been knocking out people all your life and you're afraid? I never understood that.
I got a question kind of tailored for you and knowing what you know about judo and some martial arts. So who are you going to put your money on to come out on top of a fight between Jeet Kune Do master Bruce Lee, Jiu-Jitsu legend Roger Gracie, Judo Gene LeBell?
Now, I know Gene.
I figured you would.
Gene. Yeah, I know Gene, man. I fought in the tournament in 1968 in Hammond, Indiana. And Gene was stacking the trophies on the table when I walked in off the bus, because we bussed in from Chicago. And he was polishing the trophy out, setting them on the table. And I went up to him and said, save that one for me. And at the end of the tournament, he presented me with the trophy. And I said, I told you I was going to get this trophy. Now, flash forward to my being this actor now. I'm at a Hollywood event. Oh, I was doing a movie. He was a stunt coordinator in the film. And I went up to Gene and said, do you remember me? And he said, yeah, I love your work. And blah, blah, blah. I said, no, you don't know me. And he said, and I told him about that incident. I said, you were putting the statues on the table and I told you. And he said, you told me to save this son of a bitch for you. And I did. Was that you? I said, yeah, that was me. So I've known him since I was a kid. But between Gracie and Bruce was doing mixed martial arts before mixed martial arts was a thing. Bruce was my guy. I used to try to be like Bruce when I was in, karate at 15, 14. But there's a great martial artist, calling my brother, named Tayari Cassell, who is one of the top 10 martial artists in the world for the last 30 years. And I've always emulated him in tournaments as well. He was as great as Bruce and he's still a bad boy, calls himself also. And Mfodishi, which means warrior king. But there are a lot of guys, man, I fought with and came up with, and I fight in Shiai competition with, or Jugamite. And people say Komite. It's not a Jugamite. That's what you do when you spar. And the judo version of that is called Randuri. So I fought judo at the Kodokan when I was 16 in Japan with my sensei. I've seen a lot of cats. I've known a lot of fighters that aren't known to the regular public of what they can do. But there were some bad boys, man, and women that I came up with. But I would take Bruce Lee over Gracie. And if it was between Judo Gene LeBell and Gracie, I would take Gene LeBell. If it was between Judo Gene LeBell and Bruce Lee, that would be a hard one for me, because if Gene got his hand on you, if you had a gi on, if we were both wearing gis, I would take Gene, because once Gene grabs you, that's your ass. He's a choke master. And you know that story with he and the Aikido guy.
Seagal, yes.
Seagal.
Yeah, you've heard that story, right?
I have, yes.
Yeah,
that's true. That was Gene LeBell that did that to him. And he, for being a great, so-called great martial artist, had no concept and no clue of who Gene was. And that was his big mistake. I can take out anybody. Just choke me. I can get out of anything. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll do it. Oh, come on, just do this. I'm like, he said, what? He said, yeah. He let you choke him? He didn't know who the hell he was. And the rest is history. That's that thing what always messes you up called ego, man.
For sure. So maybe going back to that time when you were kind of first entering tournaments, did you have a childhood hero at that time? Somebody you really looked up to? Yeah,
Tayari Cassell, Bruce Lee, Preston Baker. There was Jimmy Jones, the great Jimmy Jones in Chicago. Hank Okamura, who was a judo instructor and one of Gene LeBell's friends in Chicago. Charles Freeman. My martial arts original instructor was Lieutenant Charles V. Grzansky of the Chicago Police Department when I was 14. There were a lot of guys I looked up to.
You also mentioned earlier, we got a couple questions related to the genres in question with Pale Door. What is your favorite Western?
Ooh, favorite Western, Once Upon a Time in the West.
That's a good one.
With Henry Fonda played a bad guy, and Charles Bronson, and it was a harmonica.
such a great Ennio Morricone score.
Yeah. And Jason Robards was in that. And when I starred in Roots with Henry Fonda, we would eat lunch together. Our trailers were next to each other. And I remember he was coming to the set. Henry Fonda's coming to the set. I was like, what? And I didn't know his trailer was going to be right next door to mine. I wasn't working that day, but I came to the set to watch him work. And I stepped out of my trailer, looking down, fixing my clothes. And as soon as I walked 2 steps, Henry Fonda was standing in front of my trailer trying to fix his tie. And I was so frozen that I tried to back up in the trailer, but the door swung out and I was trying to open the door and go back in. And he looked at me and said, "Can you help me with this tie?" And I went, "Sure." And I'm tying this tie for him. And I said, "I'm a big fan of yours." I said, "I'm Stan Shaw." He shook out his hand and said, "Hank Fonda." And I went, "Well, yeah." and he had a pacemaker, and we started talking and hung out. And he walked to his car came up and said, it's time to go to the set, Mr. Fonda. And he said, "I'm going to walk over with Stan." And we walked to the set, and he made them put my chair next to his. And no one wanted anyone to be around Henry because of wireless mics, and he had a pacemaker. So they didn't want any kind of accidents happening or whatever back then. And so they moved my chair. John Erman was the director. He moved my chair, and I moved on the other side from where he was filming. And he came back to his chair, and he cupped his hand over his eyes like the sun was in his eyes looking. And he was looking for me. And he looked over and saw me, and he waved his hand telling me to come over to him. And I went over there, and he said, What are you doing clear across there?" I said, "Well, they told me they didn't want me near you because of your pacemaker." And he actually said, "Balderdash, Balderdash." And he said, "Bring his chair over here." So we hung out every day. I had lunch and all that stuff. And I got to tell him about that film, Once Upon a Time in the West, and got to talk to him about, how he got into his characters and stuff. And that's one thing I've always done is when I work with greatness, I always talk to actors about acting. And I've always talked to them about money, that you can expect. What can you make? What won't you make? And don't even think about it. What to ask for, what you won't get, all that stuff. The business side of the business. So I was fortunate enough to work with people that taught me a great deal.
It's always nice when the people you look up to turn out to be nice people and very friendly. Which of the classic movie monsters from the Monster Squad is your personal favorite?
Which of the classic movie monsters?
Mm-hmm.
Wolfman's got nards. Because when I was a kid, one of my favorite horror films was Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. I used to watch that over and over again. And my first horror film that I saw when I was a kid, my mom took me to a house on Haunted Hill. It was the first time I saw 3D. And when the skeletons came off the screen, I came off the chair running out. They had to grab me. But yeah, Wolfman with that. That was a lot of fun making that picture as well.
You also had some memorable television appearances on everything from Hill Street Blues, The X-Files, to the North and South miniseries, among others. Do you happen to have an all-time favorite television series?
Ooh, I had fun doing North and South. Hill Street Blues was special because I had auditioned for them about, 4 times, and they never chose me. And they wanted to see me again. And a 3-part arc came up, and they wanted me to audition for that. And I didn't want to go audition. I told my agent, I've auditioned for them 3 times, and they never used me. And I walked in, I was upset, and I did my audition, and I just left without talking. I just walked out. And my agent called and said, and this was a learning experience for me as well. They like you, they want to use you, but they said you walked out like you didn't want to be a part of it. And I said, I've auditioned for these people 4 times, and they never chose me. And he said, they were always looking for something with an arc for you to play. And this character guest stars in 3 episodes. And that's a lot of what changed my attitude. I was like, really? Well, why didn't they say so? But you never know what people are doing and what they expect or their reactions to you. You got to govern yourself and how you feel and how you interpret things. And believe in you and always go, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. That doesn't mean it's the end of your life or your career. But I enjoyed Hill Street Blues as well.
Nice.
Those 2 things were nice. Although Roots was a special because I got to be great friends with Alex Haley. So that was a blessing doing those roles.
All right. This next question is very different than the others.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you 3 different types of food. And if you had to kill one of these foods, meaning you could never have it again, which one has to go? And they're all Chicago themed. So we have deep dish pizza, Portillo's hot dog, or an Italian beef.
Well, the beef would have to go because I don't eat beef anymore.
Oh.
But when I grew up, I loved the Italian beef and the juice on it and the bread. They used to have a thing called a Taste of Chicago that used to come out here. And Joe Montagna and I used to go to that. He actually opened a restaurant in Burbank called the Taste of Chicago. But I love my deep dish pizza. But Italian beef would have to go.
Yeah, I miss that. I used to live right down the block from it, walking distance, and Joe Mantegna was one of the nicest human beings. Anybody who walked in there and recognized him from anything, Criminal Minds, whatever, he'd happily take a picture with you. So finally, Stan, I know we kept you a while here, but we just want to know one final question. What would be your walk-up music, like your entrance theme to your TED Talk, or if you were a fighter or a boxer, a wrestler, or a ball player, what are you walking into? What's the music bopping in the speakers behind you?
You mean this would have to, you mean asking me music that everyone would know, right? Because I like my dad's, he had a hit song called Blues for the West Side. It's a saxophone piece that I really
That's
like.
a good answer.
Yeah. But if it were mainstream, the instrumental to Shaft.
I like it.
Nice. Yeah. That's a fun one.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. As Stan is one bad mother. Shut your mouth.
You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about Stan.
No, Stan, again, I fully expect the Lakers to win this series. Whether or not they win Game 3, we'll know by the time folks listen to this. But we appreciate the time. I know it's been a little bit. We thank you for bearing with us through this. And again, I think you gave some killer insights and killer stories for the folks to have there.
Well, it's been a pleasure, and thank you for having me. I appreciate both you guys. You did a good job. It was nice talking to you. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of the fray.
Of course. And I hope that the screenplays see the light of day. I really want to see them up on the screen. The Gargoyle Bob one sounds great.
Yeah. Well, hopefully. I've given a couple of them to Aaron and Cameron. So we'll see. If I'm not going to stop. So, I'm here for the duration. I'm here for the long run, for the marathon, not the sprint.
Well, you've been a pretty steady marathon runner, and again, pleasure to have you on the program. We'll link to social media and stuff for you on our show notes as well, so people can find you. And again, we thank you for the time.
Peace, and stay safe, and always be someone's North Star.
Well, that is a lovely way to conclude the interview with you, Stan. So thank you again.
Okay, you guys take care.